So if you are constantly feeling stressed, overwhelmed, or just totally drained by the end of the day, look, I want to validate that right out of the gate. We've all hit that wall. Between staring down a never-ending Slack channel, an overflowing inbox, and the constant ping of notifications on our phones, modern life can honestly feel like an endless emotional treadmill. You are absolutely not alone in feeling this way. But what if emotional intelligence, or EQ, isn't just some magical, elusive personality trait that you're either born with or you aren't? What if it's actually a highly actionable set of habits that you can practice in just 5 minutes a day? Okay, let's dive into this.
I want you to ask yourself, are you reacting or are you responding? It's kind of a provocative question, right? Because the truth is, most of us move through our days completely on autopilot. We get an email that annoys us and we just snap. Or someone cuts us off in traffic and boom, our blood pressure instantly spikes. Living unconsciously like this creates so much unnecessary conflict and regret, mostly because we're letting our temporary emotions take the steering wheel instead of actually managing them with clarity.
So here is our roadmap for the explainer today. Number 1, breaking the autopilot trap. Number 2, the power of the pause. 3, mastering your inner dialogue. 4, transforming your relationships. And finally, number 5, the daily EQ routine.
Section 1, breaking the autopilot trap. Let's move to and see how this builds.
You know, when we fall into the autopilot trap, we are completely unconscious. We're highly reactive, stressed out, and totally driven by our immediate impulses. Honestly, it just feels chaotic. But when we intentionally shift to an intentional state, everything changes. We become aware, we become calmly responsive, and we're driven by our actual core values instead of just our immediate frustrations. The absolute key takeaway here is that your emotions aren't enemies you have to defeat. They're literally just signals. Fear signals danger. Anger signals a crossed boundary. If you can just recognize them instead of blindly reacting, you naturally shift away from that chaos and right into intention.
Moving to Section 2, the power of the pause. It's time to regain your control. Okay, if you want a true secret weapon to completely change how you navigate stress, this is it, the pause. It's the ultimate catalyst because it creates this crucial, tiny space between a stressful stimulus and your actual response. And this pause happens in 4 simple steps. Notice the trigger, breathe, label the emotion, and then choose a response. Now that second step, breathing, that is where the magic really happens. A slow, intentional, deep breath physically communicates with your body. It immediately engages your parasympathetic nervous system. Within literally seconds, your heart rate slows down, your cortisol levels drop, and it clears out that mental fog. That brief pause buys your rational brain, the prefrontal cortex, the precious time it needs to catch up with those fast-firing emotional impulses of your amygdala.
And that leads right into step 3. Whenever a really strong emotion arises, try saying to yourself, this is anger, or this is sadness, or this is joy. So why is this so effective? Because naming the feeling literally separates your identity from a temporary emotion. Notice you aren't saying, I am angry, which kind of defines you as the emotion itself. You are simply observing, this is anger. That tiny, tiny shift in language reduces the emotion's intensity and puts you right back in the driver's seat.
Section 3, mastering your inner dialogue. The mentor versus the judge.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how clearly it illustrates the 2 voices we all have competing in our minds. First, there's the judge. You know this voice. It punishes you with absolute negative statements like, I am a failure, or I always fail at this. It essentially locks you in a prison of limitation. But then there's the mentor. The mentor reframes that exact same experience to say, I haven't mastered this yet, or I failed at this specific attempt. Do you feel the difference there? The mentor isolates the event instead of attacking your fundamental identity. Turning your inner voice from a punishing judge into a guiding mentor is for sure a massive game changer.
To keep that mentor voice strong, we have to practice honest self-reflection. And that means actively asking yourself what emotion drove your action, identifying your own limiting beliefs, and most importantly, taking complete accountability for your mistakes without blaming other people. Why does this matter? Well, think about a professional setting. A limiting belief, like assuming your boss hates your work just because they asked for one single revision, will completely derail your confidence. Honest accountability means shifting from victim thinking to problem solving. When you stop pointing fingers and start owning your errors, you massively accelerate your own personal growth.
Section 4. Transforming your relationships. Let's look at how we connect with others.
Once you master that internal dialogue, it translates directly into transforming how you connect with everyone else. I highly recommend stealing these active listening scripts. The next time someone is venting to you, try saying, what I hear you saying is, or it sounds like you're feeling, Now, I get it. As high achievers, it's incredibly difficult for us to just sit there and not try to immediately fix the problem. We love solving things. But the crucial point to remember is that holding space and validating someone's feelings is so much more powerful than rushing in with a wrench to fix it. At the end of the day, people simply want to be seen, heard, and understood without judgment.
But remember, healthy relationships also require protecting your own energy. This might look like simply stating, "I cannot take on another responsibility right now." Clear boundaries aren't walls designed to isolate you. Not at all. They are absolutely necessary limits that protect your emotional well-being. When you clearly and calmly enforce your boundaries, you actually build mutual respect rather than just brewing silent resentment over time. And this brings us to the true superpower of relationships, vulnerability. It is the courage to admit imperfection and just ask for help. As the amazing researcher Brené Brown has brilliantly shown us over the years, we so often think of vulnerability as a weakness, but it is absolute strength. When you drop that exhausting mask of constant perfection, you relieve yourself of this immense burden of performance. And more importantly, you invite genuine trust and build much, much deeper human bonds.
Section 5. The Daily EQ Routine. Let's lock this in daily.
And this brilliantly illustrates what a perfect EQ routine looks like when you break it down into a simple daily timeline. In the morning, you set a clear intention. You're basically programming your emotional compass before all the noise of the world gets to you. Then, midday, you do a really quick emotional check-in. Just ask yourself, where's my stress level at? Am I holding tension in my shoulders? And finally, at night, you complete a calming and gratitude ritual. This helps you process your emotions and release any lingering tension before you go to sleep. Setting just one clear morning intention, like, "Today I choose to be patient," actively programs your brain for the day ahead. This simple morning act actually prevents the need for a lot of heavy emotional lifting later on. If you pair that with practicing daily gratitude to reframe your challenges and use just a little bit of evening journaling to get those heavy emotions out of your head and onto paper, you've completely transformed your day. And I want to remind you, you don't need to be perfect at this. Emotional intelligence is built through small, imperfect steps repeated daily. It is not about flawless performance. I really want to leave you with this powerful thought. Between stimulus and response lies your ultimate freedom to choose. That is the core thesis of absolutely everything we've covered in this explainer today. No matter what happens around you, you always have the power to choose your response. You are literally never at the mercy of your environment. So what are you going to choose the very next time you feel triggered? Take a deep breath, embrace the pause, and go master your day.